All right, who's ready to get fired up? Well, that's the thing about this next speaker. You'll always count on him to raise the energy in any room. I'm talking about our National Ambassador, SEAC, retired John Wayne Troxell. A native of Davenport, Iowa, Troxell began his military career by enlisting in the U.S. Army in 1982 as an armored reconnaissance specialist. During his 38-year career, Troxell served across the country and around the world at almost every position of leadership within the non-commissioned officers' corps, to include command senior enlisted leader at the battalion, brigade, regimental, corps, major command, sub-unified command, and combatant command levels. His combat experiences span over 3 decades, with services in Operations Just Cause in Panama, Desert Storm, the Persian Gulf, Iraq Freedom twice, and Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. Troxell's career culminated serving as a senior enlisted advisor to the 19th Chairman and Joint Chiefs of Staff, now retired U.S. Marine Corps General Joseph F. Dunford, Jr. from December 2015 to December of 2019, before retiring himself from active service in April of 2020. Since retiring, he is still on the go and engaged with audiences of veterans and service members alike. Active duty units, installations, and veteran-focused nonprofit organizations frequently request his attendance as a motivational speaker at events focusing on leadership, readiness, and health and fitness. He also serves as an advisor for brand ambassador for many businesses such as Uncle Nearest Premium Whiskey, Downrange Supplements, and TRX Elite, as well as nonprofits such as Hiring Our Heroes and the Allied Forces Foundation. In February of this year, Troxell added the title of author to his already extensive resume, publishing his book, Surrender or Die, Reflections of a Combat Leader, where he shares invaluable insights, lessons, and strategies for success, empowering individuals to overcome adversity, embrace challenges, and emerge stronger than ever before. Troxell lives with his wife, Sandra, in Lakewood, Washington, and is a life member of VFW Post 10281 in Vine Grove, Kentucky. Please join me in giving a resounding welcome to our VFW National Ambassador, our comrade, SEAC retired John Wayne Troxell.
Well, good morning. How's everybody doing today? It's time to get fired up. We're at the National Convention here. To Commander-in-Chief Borland, sir, thank you for your leadership. I know that you're on your way out here, but the past year you've done some phenomenal things for our organization, and it culminated today with the signing of the joint proclamation with our Taiwan partners. So thank you for your leadership over the past year, sir. And to all my fellow VFW comrades, auxiliary group members, supporters, vendors that are here today, and to our Taiwan partners, I say thank you, Xi, for you being here today. This convention is important for many reasons. We're here to continue to educate our members on the direction that the organization is going, continue to build synergy and cohesion across the entirety of what we're trying to accomplish, and continue to develop our vision and focus to remain the most relevant veteran service organization on the planet, period. Now, I have to tell you, we live in a world today that is probably the most contentious environment that our nation has been in. The global war on terrorism is over as of 31 December 2022, and now we are focusing on what our Defense Department is calling integrated deterrence, meaning we are looking to stay out of war by building these relationships with our partners and allies that will be a deterrent. It's a pretty good strategy to have to make sure we have no further loss of life in combat. And as some in Washington, D.C. will say that we are entering into an era of persistent peace, I think it's the most dangerous assumption we can have as a nation to think that extended peace is in front of us. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that the world is a very contentious place, and we have people out there, we have nations out there, and non-state actors that want to do harm to the United States, our homeland, and to our partners and allies. So to have an assumption that persistent peace is on hand is something that I think is very dangerous. And that kind of thinking can lead to complacency as a nation within our military that all of a sudden could cause us to start losing competitive advantages that would get after in integrated deterrence. And you know, when I see things in our nation, like a balloon, whether it was a Chinese spy balloon, a recon balloon, or whether it was Mary Poppins on a cross-country tour from the Aleutian Islands all the way to South Carolina, and we allow it to come across our homeland unfettered, I get concerned. Because teammates, we cannot be so concerned about potentially offending adversaries that we forget to defend our homeland. And if the first line of defense is a bunch of beer-drinking NASCAR folks that take their Mossberg shotguns and their Busch Light beer bottles and start shooting and throwing them at a balloon at 30,000 feet in the air, we got a problem, ladies and gentlemen. But I will tell you the good thing about that is that showcases that if there is a potential invasion or a threat to our homeland, it's going to be 300 million Americans that are going to rise up against that threat and say, not on our watch. Now, China is the pacing challenge in our national defense strategy. And not only militarily, but economically, information, and in the diplomacy domains, we have to compete with them over the long term. And in terms of integrated deterrence, the more we as an organization can build relationships with similar organizations from other countries, like our partners from Taiwan, the more we are going to be not only taking care of our veterans collectively, but the more we are going to showcase that we are going to be strong as partners and allies, and we ourselves as an organization are going to be a deterrent to any potential aggression. And if you look at Russia, who still, because of their economy and because of their nuclear weapons capability, especially at the tactical level, they still have a threat to us. Even though they're getting their nose bloodied every day by the Ukrainian military, oh, by the way, for the last 7 years, that has been trained by the United States military, and also that have been outfitted with things like John Deere tractors from the great state of Iowa, that are these farmers in Ukraine are using to hijack Russian tanks and continue to impose costs on Russia's invasion. That shows you the strength of the United States, not only our military, but our industrial machine. And then we can't forget about North Korea and Iran, rogue nations who have global aspirations. Kim Jong-un certainly in North Korea with his nuclear capability, and Iran through its proxy forces and its threat network to continue to not only disrupt global order, but to cause any kind of harm they can to us and our partners and allies. And we cannot forget that ISIS and Al-Qaeda and all terrorist organizations are still a threat to our homeland. It may be nascent right now, but let there be no doubt that they want to plan, prepare, export, and execute terrorist attacks in Western Europe, North America, and most importantly, in our homeland. So our ability to continue to be strong and be a deterrent to all of these threats as a nation and with our powerful military is what we're going to have to do as we move forward in the future. But let's take a look at what's been going on in our homeland over the last 3 years. It started with COVID in January of 2020 that caused a lot of things to happen within our country. Our way of life was kind of disrupted and everything. And then in May of 20, a significant event happened in the murder of George Floyd that caused unrest in our country throughout the summer of 20. And then the events of January 6, 2021, whether you want to call it an insurrection, a riot, or a bunch of people just acting stupid, it had a significant impact on our nation. And then we cannot forget the abrupt, disorderly withdrawal that we made out of Afghanistan in September of 2021. The strategy that caused it to be an abrupt, disorderly withdrawal was one thing, but the actions on the troops on the ground, like it is every conflict we have, were superb. They evacuated over 124,000 people out of Afghanistan, and they met the timeline they were supposed to meet to have everything out by 31 August. Our troops will always get the job done, even though they have to manage the risk that isn't mitigated at the strategic level, and they will continue to be a shining beacon of what the United States of America is all about. You know, and then Russia invaded Ukraine in February of 2022, and now our focus of our armed forces has been on assisting the Ukrainians. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a great job and a great idea for us to support the Ukrainians. My counterpart, when I was the SEAC, the Ukrainian SEAC, Alexander Kaczynski, is still in his position over there. And while he's in their headquarters in Kyiv during the day, he's in fighting positions at night as the whole nation rises up to stop this Russian aggression. But you look at all of those things coupled together, and you throw in social media and kind of the polarization politically in our nation, and now we have a recruiting crisis on our hands in our armed forces. The U.S. Army will not meet its numbers for 2 years in a row. The Navy and Air Force will not meet their numbers this year. The Marine Corps and the Coast Guard will meet their numbers, but they will be breaking the tape at the end of the fiscal year to do it. And so this, ladies and gentlemen, could lead to a national security crisis. If we cannot recruit the appropriate number of men and women to enter our armed forces that will allow us to continue to have the requisite capabilities necessary to not only deter but defeat any threat in large-scale combat, we have challenges on our hands. And let there be no doubt, if we do not have the capabilities to defeat any nation state like the ones I talked earlier, then we're certainly not going to deter them at all. So we have to continue to get after building our armed forces through our organization and showcasing what military service is all about. I say it all the time. I've never seen a goldfish be able to deter a piranha in a fish tank. So the bottom line is we got to continue to do our part to get after building our military and making sure military service is attractive to this young generation. Now I will tell you, over the past 3 months, I've been on a CEO thank you tour with a very influential person. She is the Chief Executive Officer of Uncle Nearest Premium Whiskey, Grant Sidney. She's on the board of Endeavor that just made the merger between UFC and WWE, and she is arguably the most influential African-American woman in the business world since Oprah. And for the last 3 months, we have visited 33 bases, initially to show our support and thank our troops for their nation and thank our veterans. But early on, we realized because of this recruiting crisis, because of issues with retention, quality of life, and quality service, that thank you tour immediately went to a call to action. And what can she do as a very influential CEO, and what can I do as a retired SEAC with a global network from senior enlisted and service members around the world? What can we do to continue to make military service more attractive and be able to continue to take care of not only our current service, but the veterans as they get out as well? So in my opinion, in today's world we live in, this is a further call to action to us at the Veterans of Foreign War. And we do great things. We've done it with the PAC Act. We've done it with this joint proclamation. We do it every day, getting after benefits and care for our comrades, our veterans, and their families. But I think we have to continue to inspire this young generation to show how attractive military service is. Every one of you out here, every one of us has a story about our time in the military. And you truly believed in what you were doing then, and you truly love your country because you're here today and you're part of the greatest organization on the planet, the VFW. So tell your story. Get out there and tell these young people what military service did for you, what being a part of veteran service organization like the VFW did for you. We cannot continue to allow a divide between generations. We have to transcend these generations by continuing to talk about military service and how attractive it can be, how the cool things people can do, and in the end, what it does for our nation. And then, ladies and gentlemen, in the hypersensitive world we live in now, it is not a sin to say, I love my country. And say, I'm going to do something about it. And I'm going to proudly support our armed forces, and I'm going to proudly support our nations, and I'm going to proudly support our homeland and our way of life. All of us are ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, and we got to do our part. We are the #1 global choice for partner security in the world right now. But let there be no doubt the Chinese want to replace us. They're on a 100-year plan, and they're looking to replace us as the #1 global power. And as a lot of people talk about all the time that I'm around, all we've known all of our lives is that we are the #1 global power. I, for one, and I don't want my children or grandchildren or future generations of the Troxell family to have to live in a country that is not the #1 global power. So we've got to continue to get after it. We've got to continue to support our troops. And in the end, we as an organization have to make sure that we are as relevant as we can be to the men and women that look to serve, that are serving, and that they are no longer serving, but are still proud to have served our country. So in closing, I will ask you this question, ladies and gentlemen. What are we as an organization prepared to do to continue to remain relevant to the men and women in this nation that we need for military service, but more importantly to the men and women that are serving, and then those 20 million that are no longer serving? And in the end, this call to action, I think, if we accept it, we get fired up about it, and we go out and do it, we will continue to be the greatest nation on the planet, with the most powerful nation in the world, with the greatest veteran support organization in the world, known as the Veterans of Foreign War. So God bless you all. God bless the VFW, our auxiliary group, our partners and allies, but most importantly, God bless America. Thank you so much. Boom.
That's a hard act to follow. I told you, get ready.